Hi, I'm Tony Lombardi, and welcome to another edition of Music Fanimal. When we had a show on 105.7 The Fan called The Fanimal, we used to feature local musicians in studio, and it became wildly popular. It became so popular that we decided to incorporate it into Russell Street Report here on Fanimal Radio. But the popularity still increased, so we decided we're going to give it its own channel, Music Fanimal. So here for the first time, joining us on Music Fanimal is Dennis Schocket. We're going to sit down with Dennis today, talk to him a little bit about his new album called Four with his band Starbelly, and he'll also be playing a few songs for us here to your musical delight. So without further ado, let's introduce Dennis Schocket. I want to introduce you now to the man, the local legend. Dennis, welcome into the program.
Tony, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
Dennis is with Starbelly, and Starbelly has a new record out. It's called Four. And Dennis, to my untrained ear, you know, I'm a fan of you guys, and I've been out to see you guys in a lot of different places, and we'll talk about that later in the program. But to my untrained ear, I'm hearing OAR, I'm hearing a little bit of Petty, although you guys sing better, and I'm hearing some, obviously, Beatle overtures, and I hear them in fastball a little bit. So, so talk about the record, the whole process, how you guys got together to make this record. And,
I would agree with all your influence, except OAR. I'm not really a big fan of OAR, but Petty, and Wilco.
There's another one, that's
Beatles, but well, Starbelly is four guys. It's myself, Cliff Hillis, who lives up near Philly, Brian Ewald, who lives down near Annapolis, and Greg Schroeder, who lives in Parkville. The original Starbelly were three-piece, Cliff and Greg and I, back 20 years ago. And then a few years later, Cliff left to pursue other solo things, and Brian joined. And then we put out a second album with that lineup, with Brian and Greg and myself. And then
Rocket Ship, I remember that
Rocket
song.
Ship is on the first album.
That was a great
I can
song.
play that, you know. And then, so, you know, we were all older, and we said, well, let's all get together, and the four of us do an album, see if we can come up with something. And so, you know, really about 8 years ago we started it, but everybody is pulled in so many different directions. We're all full-time musicians.
Okay, so this record just released 2018.
Yeah, started around 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, again, because everybody's so spread out over such an
you're
area.
doing different things with your lives and whatnot.
Brian works for PRS Guitars. He's their spokesmodel, but not really. But he goes to all their conventions and displays all their guitars, and he's a wealth of knowledge for them. Cliff, again, he lives in Philly. He's a producer. He plays with a lot of bands. He tours with Scandal, the band from the 80s, with Patti Smythe. He tours with the orchestra, which is...
Goodbye to You.
Yeah, Goodbye to You, exactly. He tours with the orchestra on occasion, which is not Jeff Lynne's ELO, but it's two of the other members from ELO. Who call themselves the orchestra, and they do songs like that. And Greg and
now, did they play at Record Theater not maybe 10 years ago? Or
I would imagine so. That's before Cliff's time. But so anyway, you know, we're all busy. I'm a full-time musician. I play 6 nights a week. But you know, we would just fly in and get together, and we'd go over some songs. And Cliff and I wrote the whole album together, pretty much. And it was a long process, but it was really worth it because things that we liked, we could listen to for a year or two, and as opposed to a week or two, and make decisions on things, whether we liked the tone of that snare drum or the bass didn't sound right. You know, we could go back. So it wasn't a matter of Brian Wilson sitting there waiting for the perfect thing. It was just a matter of spending the time, and it was just natural. We weren't forcing ourselves to a deadline to get the record done, and I think it really sounds better because of it. You know,
I made a few notes because I was listening to the record today. And there is a song called Sleep, and in the song there's a line, thought of the Beatles right away, get my feet on the ground.
Let me get my feet back on the
ground.
ground.
Coming back from Help.
Right, well, funny about that is I had no idea Cliff and I wrote that line in that song and didn't even think about the Beatles reference, and that's the truth, my hand to God. No idea.
It's osmosis since you're influenced.
Well, it's funny because I sent a copy of it to our friend Keith Brewer, who used to be in the Ravens, and he's a buddy, one of my favorite songwriters, and he wrote back, you just got away with saying, help me get my feet back on the ground. And I thought, oh, he didn't like that line. Is that a cheesy line? And I said the same to Cliff. I said, I think Keith thinks that line is kind of trite.
And it still hasn't hit you.
Still hasn't hit me. And then somebody else eventually, like a day or two later, said, that's from Help. And neither one of us even thought. And we're huge Beatles fans. And so once you realize it's from Help, then I see what he meant. But, you know, but it didn't even occur to me. But it's a really good song, and it's real Beatley too. That song, I mean, it's very, very Beatley. So, but funny.
Which is probably why I like the record so much.
Yeah.
Now, another song that I like, "The Boy Who Learned How to Cry."
Yeah.
There's a line in there: "Better to ask for forgiveness than permission."
Yeah.
And you know, my wife Ruthie, she hates when I say that.
Yeah, that's a class. Well, and the line is it better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission in kind? And it's a great line, and it just fits with the theme of that particular song, which is, I wrote that about my father, who grew up like a lot of our dads. He was born in the 20s, and you know, they were off to war and get married when you're young and get a job and take care of your mother and your wife and your kids. And he had a couple of cousins who were very successful. One was an illustrator, one was a congressman. And my father, when he got out of the service, I asked him, well, why didn't you pursue your dreams and things like that? And he said, I had to go back to Brooklyn, take care of your grandmother, because she was a widow and or divorced. And so he just deferred all his dreams, you know, and then he gets married and has kids, and our parents did that too. And, you know, so it was really interesting. And I'd never written a song about my father. And but that's what it is. Like, he could have pursued his dreams, but he would be asking for forgiveness, or should he just do it? And he did neither. He didn't do either of those. He just made a better life for everybody around him.
That story kind of reminds me of the Dan Fogelberg song, "Leader of the Band."
Yeah, truly. Interesting. I'd never thought about that, but I know the theme of that song. But for me, it was just, I'm a songwriter, and like a lot of guys, at least for me, you're writing a song and you don't really necessarily know what it's about. You might have a title or you may not. I didn't have the title of that song, but that song, as you're writing it, they tend to reveal themselves to you. You know, you do a line and then you have a follow-up line and you realize, oh, that reminds me of Tony. And then you go, then suddenly Tony's in your head. And then now it starts to redirect itself to you. It's almost like a divining rod, you know. If somebody points that there's water there, it kind of leads itself there, you know. So songwriting to me is that way. That particular song led me to him.
Another song I really liked a lot on the record's called "Four," Strange Constellations, and to me it was sort of a song, and granted I've only listened to it once, and a lot of times when you listen to an album, the songs that might be your favorites initially, maybe they aren't your favorites long term because you listen to it and listen to it. Yep. But this particular song, "Strange Constellations," it reminded me of a deja vu kind of feeling, or a serendipity, things that kind of happen for reasons. So talk about that song.
Yeah, it's definitely that, and that's more, as I said, Cliff and I wrote all these songs together, but that's lyrically more Cliff. But I do know that he tends to look to the stars, and I don't necessarily think he's an astrology guy, but his brother is. But a lot of what informed this record, interestingly enough, there are quite a few themes on it. Some are dealing with the heavens and stars and phenomenon and nature and things like that. And others are family things, and the struggles for females is a lot of the antagonists in these songs are female characters. This particular one, I think, and we discussed actually when we were writing, it has a lot to do with finding yourself, again, in like sort of a deja vu thing. You're finding yourself a place where, it's very familiar, yet the other person doesn't know you. You know them. You say, I've seen you before. And they're, no, I don't think so. And you know for sure that you've been here before. Maybe,
and you're not sure if it's denial or they just don't get it.
Or did I make it up? You know, there are things that that I think all the time that turn out to not be true, as everybody does. Everybody has ideas that, what's this, a fact, and you think, wow, I can't believe that never happened, or my recall of the events of that day are completely different than yours, and we were both there seeing it, and what we take and how we process all that information. That's what I really think that is about. And you know, a lot of those songs are there's a song on the album called "The Stars of Constantine," and I wrote it lyrically. I have no idea what it's about, but I was sure when I wrote it that there's a phenomenon in the sky that
you
happens.
have no idea what it's about.
Well, I think I know what it's about. It's about a phenomenon.
Well, you said it leads you different directions.
Well, I remember being a kid, and you know, when we were kids, you'd go to the planetarium and you'd lay there and you'd look at the things. And I remember hearing a thing called the Stars of Constantine as almost, you know, a phenomenon that would happen every 4,000 years, and the stars would line up and they would form a ring around the moon. It was a thing. So I'm like, yeah, that's exactly, I know what that's like. So, and I wrote a song based on that. And then when I thought, well, we're going to put this song out, and if somebody says, what's that song about? I can say, oh, well, according to whatever literature, this happens every 4, and I looked it up everywhere, and I can't find out where it is. So I think I made it up. I think I made it up, or maybe it was something.
It was a deja vu.
I was probably 12 when I remember hearing it, but it's probably something about Constantinople and something about this and the emperor or whatever. So it's just a good example of I have no idea what that is, and a friend of mine has tried to help me figure it out, but there's no answer to that. So.
Well, I know your musical influences because, like I said, I'm a fan and I've listened to you guys a lot of times. So when I'm listening to this new record 4, I'm thinking of, okay, where did I hear this before? Or what does that remind me of? And I find myself doing that with all new records. What does it remind me of?
Yeah.
And there's a snippet called Listen.
Yes, Listen. Yeah.
And Listen reminded me of Her Majesty from Abbey Road. It reminded me of Can You Take Me Back Where I Came From? Where the
the little guys
in the White Album. So thoughts on that?
Well, that's it's purposely put there. I'll let you in on a secret. It's there to set up the listener for the song that comes to later, which is called Danny Opus, which is sort of our nod to the Abbey Road side 2, sort of the operatic different things.
Yes.
But Listen is Danny Opus is about. We can get to that, but Listen is basically just a quick snippet of a melody over different chords. It's the same melody that goes all through the Danny Opus song. It's just there to say, listen, and it's setting you up to learn about who this guy Danny Opus is. He's a character that we're writing about. So it's really just to trick your ears so that when you get to the part in Danny Opus, that melody happens again.
Okay.
And you're supposed to go, it's like deja vu. I've heard that
It's
melody.
all tying
Where did I
together
hear
now.
that before? And that's what it is. It really is that. You're supposed to where did I hear this before? Same thing we were just talking about the Stars concert. I'm like, where did I hear that? So some of the melodies and things that remind you of things like Squeeze aren't necessarily purposely there. We just can't help it because they're our influences. There's a song called Jesus Freak that's a very Squeeze-like thing. Didn't do that to make you think you'd heard it before, but it does tie into that thing, Listen, when we get to the other song, Danny Opus.
Yeah, so there's that little snippet in Listen. There's the reprise of Danny Opus, the Danny reprise.
Right.
And that's kind of like a Sgt. Pepper kind of thing.
That's orchestral, yep.
And all the little snippets that kind of tie together almost like McCartney did in Abbey Road and he did in Band on the Run.
Right, he ends it with all that. That's basically what it was. And that's all done on a really cool little mellotron that Brian Ewald does. But that, again, that Danny's reprise, that is the same melody as Listen. It's just over different chords. So if you're a musician, you could play the same melody over countless different chords and it'll work. So that's just it was like an exercise to see how that would,
So when Starbelly performs, are you going to do one of these things where you perform the whole record live, or are you just a mixture of all the tracks that you've had on your various albums?
Yeah, well, we have 3 albums, and again, first album had Cliff on it, the second album had Brian, and then the third has all. So while we wouldn't say we wouldn't perform this album in its entirety, but we've done a bunch of the new songs, and then we'll throw a couple from the first, couple from the second, then a couple new ones, and try to mix it up a little bit. But we're proud of all our songs, and but the Danny Opus song is difficult because it's a 5.5-minute song, which is super long for us. We write 3-minute songs and 2-minute songs. So,
which I like too.
Yeah, me too. I like that.
That's good pop music,
Yeah, I agree. And I always say, if you write a 2-minute song and you don't like it, well, it's over in 2 minutes. It's just you don't even have to switch. It's almost over.
Well, I know we're both big fans of Tom Petty. I remember one thing he always said, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus."
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. We all feel that way. I learned that from Andy Bopp too, local legend Andy Bopp.
Yeah, Andy Bopp played at my wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good old Andy. Andy's
because this guy was double booked.
You got Andy Bopp. That's a pretty good guy to get.
Yeah, that's right. It was.
Pretty good.
So talk about where fans, our listeners and viewers can see you guys play.
Well, Starbelly. Yeah, Starbelly. We do a thing the third Friday of every month at Annapolis Smokehouse, which is a really cool place right down outside of Annapolis, owned by a local couple, Steve and Jen, and their food is ridiculously good, and we play there. So there's one you can go. But we, the International Pop Overthrow is coming up, and that's in Philadelphia. And it's on November 4th, so Starbelly will be performing. Ed Neenan will be performing at the same one, our good friend
love
Ed.
Ed Neenan.
So it's a quad bill. There's 4 or 5 different people on it. And then we have a show in the new year, just announced at Ram's Head on stage on January 20th. So we're excited about that. I don't think that we've ever headlined Ram's Head on stage, but we just played with Matthew Sweet and Fastball.
Matthew Sweet.
We toured with like Warren Zanes of the Del Fuegos and Pat Denizio. We did all those rooms, but now it's our room, so we get to do it. And really excited about that.
Great stuff. Now you're in other bands too. Talk about those bands and where people can see you play around town.
Local level, have a couple bands. I play almost every night solo or with my my buddy Mike McIntyre, who plays bass guitar. He plays with me on Tuesday nights at 510 Johnny's, which is in Bel Air, which is where I live. Have a band called the 1974, which features Spike Settles of the band Never Never, and myself, Greg Schroeder on drums, and Dave Woodworth. We play all 70s, one-hit wonders.
It's a fun night. You got to go see the 1974.
Yeah.
It's just a fun night.
Just those songs you hear and you can't remember the artist necessarily.
Right.
And then the other band I have.
But everybody in the crowd's singing along.
Everybody's singing.
They couldn't tell you who sings it, but they're singing the song.
It never rains in California in the summer, but you can't necessarily remember who that was. But and then I have the Fabtastic Four, which is just it's a Beatles tribute with Jimmy Brown and Greg and Dave Woodworth. But we don't do the wigs and the costumes and the stuff because nobody wants the 54-year-old Paul McCartney out there, but. They want 74-year-old Paul McCartney, but they want the 70. But it's just we try to make the music as close to the record as we can, and we work really hard to try and get the harmonies correct. But you can always find us somewhere.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back on the Russell Street Report, Dennis Schocket's going to play one of his songs in its entirety. Don't go away.
Hey, Justin Tucker, you just bought some Royal Farms world-famous chicken. What are you going to do now? Got some chicken in my hand, gonna eat it, understand? It's crispy, golden brown, moist and tender going down.
Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken legs, chicken thighs, don't forget the western fries. Don't you wish you had some too?
Yes we do, yes we do. Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken that's real, real what?
Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Find nearest bakery.
Showing nearby bakeries.
Find party supply store near here.
The 2018 Corolla, loaded with the latest tech and Toyota Safety Sense standard.
I got it all.
Where's my mom?
She wasn't on the list.
Right now, get $1,000 customer cash, or qualified buyers get 0% APR financing for 60 months on a stylish new 2018 Corolla. Toyota, let's go places.
That was Dennis Schocket playing a Starbelly original, Rocket Ship. Before we hear another Starbelly original, I wanted to let you know that their new CD is called Four, and I highly recommend it. Download it on iTunes. It's available now, I think, for $10.99. Well worth your investment. Also, for more on Starbelly, you can check them out on Facebook, and as well as Dennis's band, the 1974. They play a lot of one-hit wonders that I think you'll enjoy if you check them out as well. On the next edition of the Fanimal, we'll be joined by Tony Sciutto. But first, one more from Starbelly from their record Four. This one's called The Boy Who Learned How to Cry. Thanks for joining us on Music Fanimal.
Determined to fall or to ride in a house where so many had learned to fly. Lived a boy who learned how to cry. And all that he was, and all he would be, all that he wanted to prove, was tied up with no sense of urgency, somehow lost in the mood. Is it better to beg for forgiveness, or ask for permission in kind, through the dreams and the hopes of the misanthropes and the boy who learned how to cry? Well, it's hard to know what to say with everything that's gotten written down today. And it's late and it's black as the night, 'cause everybody likes to think they know what's right. Ooh, yeah. So willing to make sacrifice, and though the frost of ambition wells in his eye, he's still the boy who learned how to cry. And every night when I see you, so handsome, smiling and wise, with the love of a girl alone by your side, he's a boy who learned how to cry. Yes, the boy